Commander, please tell us about the event you are celebrating this week.
I'd be glad to, Mike. This happens to be the 50th anniversary of our station, which is a rather colorful and illustrious history, I think at least, as a private citizen and as a Navy man. The station started back in Otter Cliffs in 1917, about the middle of the First World War, and terminates here at this station and continues, of course, at the present date. We have a number of events planned, which I hope to go into later with you. And I'd like to point out that the history is not only one of the station itself, but is coincidental with the shore-based history of naval communications in the Down East area.
And now, I believe we'll be taking a look at a segment of that history.
That is correct. We produced a program, the station and the various cooperating members, of what we hope will be an interesting program based on the history of the station, highlighting various events and emphasizing the early history in which several historical events took place.
With us now are two members of the original crew at the Otter Cliffs station, Mr. Charles Ellsworth and Mr. John Disbrow. And both of you gentlemen haven't seen each other for several years, have you?
Well, 48 years, Mike, since we saw one another. Just today is the first time.
How was the weather at Otter Cliffs during those, winter months?
Well, pretty severe on account of the transportation. However, the station truck managed to take the watch standards in and out of Bar Harbor and got through okay.
What was the communications missions at Otter Cliffs? You had several channels, I understand, for several different purposes.
Yeah, there were several circuits there, Mike. We had 7 or 8 transatlantic circuits and 1 ship-to-shore circuit. And Diz probably could tell you more about the transatlantic circuits. I was on ship-to-shore all the time I was at Bar Harbor.
You reached across the sea then, Diz?
Well, we had different circuits which went to, we received traffic from Rome and from England, from France, and from Norway, and those were mostly all strictly receiving circuits. And the equipment itself was housed in little small buildings throughout the area of the Otter Cliffs reservation. And the antennas, which most of the receivers used in those days, were long wires stretched out as much as 5 miles. And the signals were picked up that way, and the traffic was copied in code. And then it was picked up, sent into the wire room, and then re-telegraphed to the different cities in the south, wherever they...
Charlie, you were there at a historical moment, actually several historical moments at the Otter Cliffs station. One in particular with a scientist who I understand some of you didn't have any necessarily doubts about his ability, but you were wondering what he was doing there, and you and several other gentlemen were there during a historical moment. Could you tell us about that?
Well, we just went for curiosity. We went in the barracks where this French scientist had his equipment, composite equipment installed, and we had nothing to do with the actual experimentation, but however a bunch of us went over to the barracks and watched him receive this message from General Pershing, who at the time was in the Eiffel Tower in Paris, and he wrote this message out in longhand: "Greetings, John F. Pershing." And the French scientist didn't like the look of the tape that was coming through the radio camera, so he threw it on the deck, and I picked it up and put it in my pocket, and I still have it as the first facsimile ever transmitted across the Atlantic Ocean.
Didn't the original signal picture come through backwards?
Yeah, the name came through backwards, and that's why he discarded it and straightened the equipment out, and then it came through in sequence after he had it straightened out.
Those early days of Otter Cliffs, you had several exciting incidents. For example, the NC-4 incident.
Well, the NC-4 flight, Bar Harbor, Naval Radio, Otter Cliffs, handled all the plane-to-ground communications with that ship, and we worked that ship by radio telegraph up until the time she landed in the Azores, which was very unusual in those days. And we also worked the R-34 British airship, which was due to land at Roosevelt Field or on Long Island. And while over Cape Sable, Nova Scotia, the airship sent out a distress call of SOS, and Navy destroyers from the Boston Navy Yard came out to the rescue and got him straightened out on his altitude, and finally he made it into Long Island. Probably the most interesting incident on the ship-to-shore circuit at Otter Cliffs was the troops coming back from Europe. The Leviathan had 12,000 troops on board. It was called the Rainbow Division, bringing them home from France, and with General Pershing was also on board the ship. And the Knights of Columbus gave every soldier on board the privilege of sending a free message to their relatives that they were arriving home in the United States safe and sound. Well, you can just imagine how many messages. There was 12,000 troops on the ship, and we were the only circuit that was handling the traffic. And we handled something like 10,000 messages. And there's a chap over in Bar Harbor now, the name of Dufresne, Commander Dufresne, was on the circuit with me, and we had a very exciting time.
Mm-hmm.